welcome to Nice Multi Tech. I'm Stephen. Today we're going to be taking a look at some graphics cards. Well, one in particular, but two versions of it. As some of you already know, I already have a 5700 XT, but it did have the blower edition, which to be fair is quite loud. I didn't have any problems with the temperatures or its performance, to tell you the truth. Just the volume when you wanted to keep it cool. Although I did wear headphones, sometimes it's still a little bit aggravating. So I decided to change it out for another 5700 XT because I still like the 5700 XT. So I bought the Sapphire Nitro Plus, but I've gone all out and bought the special edition. Now the reason I bought the special edition is because of clock speeds. The clock speed is up to 2035 megahertz, where most of the normal Sapphire only goes to 2010. I'll explain through the video what sort of clock speeds I've hit in this and what sort of frame rates we get. The other thing with this one is it actually comes with the RGB fans, where the Nitro Plus doesn't. You can buy the fans. I think they're about 30 to 40 pounds a set. But when you look at the pricing, the Nitro Plus is about 390 pounds, give or take a penny or a cent or two, and this was 409. So the difference of £20. And if I did end up wanting to get the RGB fans, it would have cost us even more in the long run if I just got the standard plus. So anyway, the specs on this one are, I'm reading it from the box, so here we go. Specs on this one are, we have Tri-X cooling, which is absolutely fantastic, with the 3 RGB fans, a metal backplate with the argb LEDs, which is quite nice as is. We have a fixed quick connect, which is great. I'm not going to be demonstrating this in this video, but you can actually take one screw out and then just take the fan off. It actually has little metal connectors rather than having to pull a cable out, which is absolutely great. Another great feature with this one is it has a dual BIOS. Now, it's a little bit complicated. I actually had to go online to check out what BIOS was what, because it has actually 3 position switches. One is a software version, where when you put it into that, you can change the dual BIOS via software within Windows, even though it does require a reboot. And the other 2 are the 2 different BIOSes, one being primary and one being secondary. I believe the primary is the standard boost edition, where it will get full clock speeds, and the secondary is the silent edition, where the fans won't kick in until you hit around about 60 degrees. It's a great feature, but it's not labelled very well, and this is all the documentation you get on that switch. It doesn't tell you that primary is full boost, secondary is quiet. It doesn't really explain it very well, and all you get underneath the software switch mode, it says please switch BIOS via tricks, primary setting default, secondary setting, and that's all it says. It doesn't tell you what those settings are. So if you're watching Sapphire, please explain or give a little bit more documentation of which BIOS is which. Even on the card itself, it doesn't show you which position is which. It doesn't tell you that 3 is the back of the card where the display ports are, and then 2 and then 1 as we go forward. I do feel that's a little bit of a downfall on the card, and I did have to do a little bit of digging and watch a few of the YouTube videos to try and find out which one was which. But I think I've got it right. 3 is the software mode where you change it within Windows. 2 is a secondary, which I believe is the silent BIOS, and 1 is the full performance boost BIOS. And another neat little feature on the top of this card, just at the end of the back plate, there is a RGB header, which you can pin straight into your motherboard, so you can use your argb so it matches all your board and the rest of your computer and everything like that, which is great. But if you don't want to do that, there is a program, and use your settings within Windows to calibrate it however you want, whether you want it one colour, whether you want it rainbow, and so on and so on. If you have a look at some of the video footage I've took, you'll see it looks really great standard the way it is, and it matches my system, because my system is just all different colours. I must also say that the argb connector on the card is 5 volt argb, not 12 volt. Unfortunately, my board only comes with 12 volt. I'm yet to upgrade that, which I'm not in a hurry to do just yet. So, performance wise, It's pretty much the same as the old 5700 XT. I didn't really buy this for performance, like I said before. I bought it because it runs cooler and it's a lot quieter, and well, to tell you the truth, it looks a lot nicer. I have tested a few games. Now, if you look up here in the corner, I will put a link to a video when I did the 5700 XT versus the Vega, which will give the idea of what sort of frames per second that card was getting. I didn't really want to put these two cards up against each other because they're both 5700 XTs. They're both going to be really, really similar in frame rate and performance, like I said, apart from cooling. So now we'll take a look at some footage of a few games that I've benchmarked, and we will start with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The blower hit 111 frames per second and the Nitro Plus hit 115 frames per second. Breakpoint, the blower hit 84 frames per second and the Nitro hit 86 frames per second. Terminator Resistance, the blower hit 178.7 frames per second and the Nitro Plus hit 180.4 frames per second. F1 2018, the Britain Short Circuit, the blower hit 146 frames per second and the Nitro hit 149 frames per second. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the new version, the blower hit 137 frames per second, the Nitro hit 144 frames per second. Now, clock speeds and temps with this card I was very impressed with. Never went over 70 degrees, usually sticking at around between 65 and 68. Also, the clock speeds, which I was quite impressed with, although we do know that these clock speeds at 2035 will not sit at 2035 while we're playing games constantly. It's a boost clock, but this card did boost to 2078 megahertz at some points. Max power usage was 228 watts, and all in all, absolutely fantastic card. Yeah, they do use a lot of power, but you know, we're used to that now, aren't we? If you want performance, you have to have lots of power. So this here. So this card has lots of RGB. It has a nice side stripe RGB. It has the Nitro logo on the top, and it also has the fans, which are also RGB. The card looks absolutely lovely and aesthetically really, really impressive. However, don't forget, this is what they class as a 3-slot card. It is also 306mm long. It just fit in my Lian Lee case. Purely down to it being water cooled and where I actually have my pump sitting. So that could have been a problem. I could have had to move all that out the way. Luckily, it just fit very, very nice. It does suffer from a little bit of GPU sag. So yes, I would suggest when you buy this card, also buy a GPU support bracket, because it's such a big card, it does hang, and when something's off balance, aggravates me. So what's my verdict on this card? My verdict on this card, absolutely love it. Love it to bits. I'm pleased I got it. It's quieter, it looks nicer, and it performs just that little bit better. And you have more control over what I'm doing with it than you did with the blower card. The blower card was in and that was it. And it didn't really like the clock. This one, I've never quite overclocked it yet, but I think we will give it a go and see how it deals with it. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video, ladies and gentlemen. If you liked, you liked. If you didn't, you didn't. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.